It's like, dopamine, please.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. 100%.
Serotonin.
Serotonin. Listen to it again. Repeat.
It's like binging on it.
It is. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Dani Meyer. This is Sauce. And on today's episode, Serena and I had the best kind of unhinged conversation about harp, strings, and winds with Henry Jenkins and Sara Magill. One, their concert with all of their friends on June 15th is going to be a riot, so you need to be there. Two, this is, in my opinion, the best kind of episode where you're just trying to see how far you can take the silliness while still talking about serious stuff. Loved having Henry and Sara in with us. We talk about, obsessing over a piece of music and just like really getting that serotonin hit every time. We talk about Debussy versus Ravel, which is one of my favorite historical stories. And I'm going to look this up, but I hope PDQ Bach wrote something for harp. Because if he didn't, I think I'm going to need to put my best composer on it. Sauce just helped herself to the camera. In any case, I kept more of our conversation before the introductions in than usual because I thought it was super fun. So you're going to hear a little bit of that. The noises do stop mostly eventually. It's worth it. It's all worth it. So glad you guys are here. Enjoy.
Oh my gosh, speaking of Mozart. Apparently I'm doing Amadeus, the movie, next year. And I'm pretty sure the harp concerto, the flute and harp concerto was in that. And I was like, can I get out of that one? I don't think I want to do that.
I've never seen that movie, actually.
You go in the IMSLP and you're like, please God, let it be the same. Let them not have messed with it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, like in a different key.
Oh my God. Yes. I would just be like, no, we're playing. Actually, no, if they did it in C flat major, I'd be thrilled.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Pedals are up. Tension on the strings is less. So it's easier to play fast.
In C flat major.
In C flat major.
Not B major. C flat major.
C flat major.
I hate everything about that.
Good thing you don't play the harp.
That's exactly right. But that's like any bass concerto where it's written in like D or G or C, right? Yeah. You think like, oh, this is so nice because it's in tune with the instrument. No, it's not nice because then everyone knows if you're out of tune.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to hear. It's like, please give me an E flat, please and thank you.
Please E flat, please.
I can fake this so much better if you just give me an E flat.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So mean that they didn't. I grabbed my sweater and my iPad.
Oh, thank you for grabbing the door. It's like, how dare you make this naturally resonant?
Rude. So
rude and unnatural. Don't you know my instrument's never in tune?
Don't you know that? Mine either. Literally ever.
What key is the Mozart flute and harp concerto originally in?
C major.
So you just go down a half step.
Mm-hmm.
Everything becomes infinitely easier.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If only... Well, the thing is that it wasn't written for the harp that we play on now. It wasn't written for the double action harp. It was written for the single action harp.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that because the double action harp, Ravel, Debussy, the whole thing. That's how it came to be.
It's the best story ever. It's
so silly.
That is a great segue. I'm going to ask Henry if you could come a little bit.
Yes.
Just a touch.
Come cuddle.
Pretend that you guys
Gonna do some score studying.
Oh, interesting.
I tried to write some notes.
Yes.
Yay.
Would you please introduce yourselves?
Yes. Oh, this is going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Sara Magill, and I play harp.
You sure do.
I do. I try. And we're doing a chamber recital together, and it's very exciting.
It's all very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Henry Jenkins, and I play violin, and that's about it.
You're also second associate.
Yes.
There. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also in the Omaha Symphony, second associate concertmaster, and try to play in the OCMS things as often as possible because that gives me life. Especially when I can make my own program with Sara. This is going to be so fun.
Which is a perfect segue into how did this happen? Because there's so much string quartet music out there, but string it like violin and harp Was that a collective, you both looked at each other and said, hey, we'd like to play music together, or did one of you go to the other?
I think it was just kind of instant.
Yeah, I remember a moment where I don't know, we were friends already, but then I like during a rehearsal or intermission or something, I came over to you and played the first lick of the synth song, right? I was like, we should do that. And you were like, yeah. And then I don't know how the snowball rolled after that, but here we have a whole program.
Yeah. I think it all started with the fantasy. And we just like clicked on music really quickly. I think we both just have like a similar style and voice and just knew that we really wanted to schmaltz it up together and just like play some fun stuff.
Is that the natural order of violin and harp, is schmaltzing it up?
Yes. I think so.
Yeah. It's the
pretty
broad,
much.
Greasy brush strokes.
Instead of womp it up, it's schmaltz it up.
Schmaltz it up. The title of the chamber recital.
Summer Concert Series 2025. Schmaltz it up.
Schmaltz it up. It's so accurate, though.
I mean, well, okay, it is, but it isn't. I would say the Saint Saëns has lots of virtuosic schmaltiness, which is phenomenal. The Bax, though, isn't like that. The Bax is really lovely and kind of serene, and then the Ravel has these moments of, I love the Ravel, but there's a lot of really beautiful pure playing on this program as well.
Yeah.
So who found what? Did you go down a rabbit hole together? Did you send each other pieces? Like, who was figuring out how to put this together?
Yeah. I think we were kind of back and forth about it.
Yeah. I mean, you know your rep best. I mean, violin's on basically everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can we do together?
Yeah.
And you had the Rolodex in your mind of what things
went through all
we could
the
do.
things. Yeah. And the Bax was
Yeah, I'd never heard of him, honestly. And then you're like, check out this album with all of these different little chamber things that he's written.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I don't normally listen to a full album of classical music, honestly, but that's one of them that I just downloaded the whole thing and I would just like listen to it.
It's
top
so
to bottom several times. Just it's so relaxing, so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
It's so vibey. It just like it takes you to a place, I feel.
Is that place the English seaside?
For me, it's so funny. For me, it's New York State. I found this piece during the pandemic. My partner and I were in Poughkeepsie. We were going to Bard College, and everything shut down. And we were upstate New York, and like all we had to do was hang out outside with our dog, and I needed music to listen to, and I like came across it, and I just remember listening to it on repeat on my bike, driving around Vassar College, where everything is just like so green and full and the colors are dark. And it wasn't until like recently that I started reading up on the piece, which is like a terrible musician move, but I was like, whatever, I don't care because it sounds good. Mm-hmm. But then I read up on it and found that he was inspired by the Irish countryside. And it was I was like, oh, wow, okay, it really does fit.
You were like right on the money. Like, yes, this is very much green, lovely things. Is Bax a composer who writes well for harp then? Is it okay? So this is kind of a loaded question I've discovered, because writing well for harp means different things depending on the instrument. So how challenging is that for you?
For this quintet, it's okay. The writing is pretty good. There's some spacing that's difficult. Some of the chords are a little bit large, but it's really like I did a duo, the Bax harp and viola duo, which every harpist is like, because it's incredibly challenging. It's just very notey and the spacing is weird and it's jumpy and it's just a bear of a piece. And this is kind of a chilled out version of that, where harp really is more of a textural component than anything else. I think that the string quartet really takes the lead in this, and harp is just kind of, I don't know, it just is there to add something extra.
Do you, Henry, do you feel like the violin writing is as virtuosic across this program as the harp writing is bound to be? Because there's harp on every single piece in this program. Which
I mean, it's not my place to say what's hard or not on a harp. I know that harp is extremely challenging in its own special way with having to manage the pedals and everything. I don't think about music that way. I'm not thinking about the notes or the modes that are happening as they go by, which you have to in order for the machines to actually function. But I'm able to just, if my hand finds the note and it's in tune, that's good. It's all right. That's great. And then, I mean, there's plenty of flats and harmonics and things like that to keep track of. But I think it's not as hard as it could be. I think I got lucky because I knew the fantasy beforehand. Okay. There's a lot of tricky things in there, but I've had a lot of time with the piece in the past also.
So that was possibly was that the biggest challenge for you in this program? Was still the Saint Saëns, or were there surprises?
I think the backs.
It's not easy for you guys. It's hard.
No, it'll be difficult to put it together. Actually, yeah. So we're taking time this week even to get together and start looking at it and have things to think about for the next, I don't know, 1.5 weeks until we get to
go through, iron it out, see what's tricky, work on it, and then when we get back here.
Right.
So we were just talking with Brett Hodge, and the brass quintet rehearsal experience is more like we're going to stagger this out over weeks and months so that we can build to a place where this is possible.
Yeah.
This is much more how I know chamber music, where it's like, all right, everybody, you got your part. In the last week, we're going to come together and hammer it out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
How much of that, I'm not familiar with working with harp at all in chamber music. So how true is that for you?
I mean, I think it's pretty common for harp chamber music to come together in that way. I don't necessarily enjoy it that way. I think that these pieces, especially the Ravel and the Fantasy, like I've played them several times, but there's just something about getting the group together, having the time to yes, we're going to be able to put it together and it's going to be okay. But I think that these extra rehearsals are really going to help us solidify our musical ideas and just kind of especially with him, play off of each other and figure out what kind of weird stuff we want to do that's not in the music. So I think it's possible, but ideally, I mean, we could spend weeks and months on this kind of stuff, just hashing it out, but it's possible to put together.
We also talked about endurance with Brett. Is that going to be something you'll need to think about or build upon because you're playing on every piece?
Yeah.
For both of you, actually. I'm curious.
Definitely.
Light writing.
Yeah. This is, the program order definitely helps with endurance for me in particular, because the backs is not super heavy. It'll be good to get warmed up. The Fantasy is heavy. It's hard. It's exhausting. And then the Thais will be kind of literally a meditation before the Ravel, which is difficult and taxing. So it's something that we have to keep in mind in there. When we were looking into rep, I was like, I can't just be playing a million things and then just pass out in the middle of them. It would not be good.
Which is one of the reasons we had to get rid of the cone, I think, because it would not have been possible for us to
get together that quickly. That's a tricky piece.
Will there be some speaking between pieces, bringing the audience through, but also to give yourself a bit of a moment between pieces? Or
what do you think?
How do you envision the concert going?
I didn't think of speaking. I think that the way it's laid out, I think will be okay to just sit down and play. And I kind of I don't know, I would appreciate silence in between the pieces to really get you from one to another.
I mean, they all kind of speak for themselves. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not, I think part of the magic of this program is that each piece paints a picture, and it's up to the first time listeners, or I don't know, anybody who's heard it before and is going to be hearing our interpretation of it. I want to know, or they're allowed to, think for themselves before we tell them how to think about the piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're allowed to think for themselves?
That's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I like to be ham-fisted about the program notes. You're not allowed to think about it.
Yeah.
If you do, you're wrong.
If you do, you're wrong. I I feel like sometimes I really don't, I don't know. I think that we're taught as musicians to do the homework. And Henry and I, we were talking about this the other day where I was like, man, I don't always know a whole lot about a piece that I feel something for. And I think that I kind of remove myself personally. I think it's important to be removed from the academic side of music at first if you're going to build an emotional connection. And then I think it's cool to like incorporate that kind of knowledge once you've formed your own opinions, you know.
That's interesting because I was actually, you know, as I was walking over, I was thinking about one of the scariest parts about classical music in general is when you have a piece no one knows on the program or a composer nobody knows. It's kind of like walking into the library and taking a book that has no cover, no details, no author, and it's this big. And like, all right, I hope I like it. I'm committing.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, like when we do the pre-concert talk, it was like orchestra hype men. It's like, it's okay. Like you don't need to see the cover because you're gonna love every inch of this. Yeah. But it's a trust exercise no matter what. So how do you, if you're trying to keep that academic distance at first, just to build emotional connection, where would you like your audience to be when they come into the hall?
Curious.
Curious? Okay.
Yeah. I think just open ears. And I think that for an audience member, it might be different. It might be more helpful to have some background on the piece so that they have something to hold on to, because it's not like I heard it the first time and I was the backs the first time and I was like, oh, this is exactly how I feel. This is exactly how I would want to play. It took like months and months of listening to it and digesting it and picking it apart. But I forget what the question was, but I think,
but you were open enough to like have that experience. Like, I'm going to beat this to death and listen to it 8,000 times. And by the end, I don't think it was even a choice. I think I just I became obsessed. I think that's how it works. I think you might be similar in that way. Like you hear a piece and I'm just like, this is my stuff. And I'm just going to listen to it.
It's hard to think about anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. So is the backs for you? Is there a piece that comes to mind that you have that obsessive quality?
Also the backs. I'm really excited for that in particular.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. You only listen to music that we're preparing and that you're conducting.
Yeah.
Is there a piece that you haven't been able to get out of your head?
It's generally when we're about to switch to something. Or like, for example, the Ben Folds, where like I'm trying to learn a different program, but I keep thinking about Ben Folds. So there are things like that. But it's all kind of percolating, right? And sometimes it really scratches an itch or something, and you just your brain fixates on it.
It's like dopamine, please.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. 100%.
Serotonin.
Listen to it again. Repeat.
It's like binging on it.
It is. Yeah.
Oh man. So the backs. Okay, so the backs is it for you guys, especially right now. But the fantasy was what kicked this whole thing off. So that is for violin and harp. What's that like? What's that instrumental balance like? Does it feel the same as collaborating with any other instrument, or does it feel like you're listening for different things than usual?
What do you think?
I think playing with Sara in particular will be very much like a normal musical experience. By that I mean harp is very hard, and sometimes when you're playing chamber work with the harpist, you don't want to step on their toes, or you don't want to take a passage too fast because they have to mess with the pedals and stuff. You're sort of letting them drive a little bit, but I know that I can trust you and you can handle anything that we're going to play at any speed. So it's just we don't even have to think about the technical stuff.
Yeah.
It's just going to be music making.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have our first rehearsal tomorrow. I'm so excited. It's like over a year in the making of just like playing this duo.
Yeah.
It's going to be so yeah.
That's really, over a year.
Yeah.
So that's been percolating to a place in your mind. Like, it's almost hard when you actually get to the point of having to press go. Like, okay, I hope this is everything I've built it up to be.
Yeah.
Besides the Saint Saul, what else in the backs? Mm-hmm. What else are you looking forward to on this program? Do you love all 4 pieces equally, or is the backs like the favorite?
I love them all. I love all of them.
Is it like your children? You're not allowed to have a favorite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. But
if you had a favorite, it would be the backs?
I don't know. See, if it would be that the Ravel or the Fantasy, and the meditation I love. It's so sweet, and it really is so reflective. But the Ravel is like the first harp piece that I loved, and I felt like I understood. And I'm just so connected to that piece. So I've only performed it 2 other times, and it's very challenging to put together. It's hard for everybody else, and it's hard for harp, but it's so well written for the harp. I'm so excited.
And there's a historical background to that. Okay, so we had Ann Hobson Pilot here years 2019. Ooh. She was the longtime principal harp of the Boston Symphony. I think she was their first Black musician as well. Yes. She legend.
Yeah.
And we did the Debussy Danse Sacrée. My French is horrible. Sacred Dances and Profane. And then the Ravel.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Yep.
And the history of that, the history of the harp is like dueling. So, all right. So Debussy and Ravel were already, they hated being compared to each other.
Yes.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
Like wrote these little critiques of each other. It's like, oh, if Debussy could orchestrate them, then he would be good. And so I think I have notes. So it's Pleyel. Mm-hmm. So the Pleyel Harp Company went to Debussy and said, hey, we have this new, was it the chromatic harp? Okay. Chromatique. So he wrote his piece for the Pleyel, but then the Erard Company went to Ravel and said, we can't have this. We can't have Debussy getting a harp commission. You have to do something for our pedal harp.
Yes.
Okay, so how did that resolve? Because that's one of my favorite moments where you have this like, it drove the instrument forward, but it's just 2 composers essentially having like
beef.
Yeah.
And the harp industry is like funding
in the balance.
The harp industry is just like, someone please give us an instrument that we can play chromatic passages on, please. And then Pleyel came up with this crazy, literally, it's like you took 2 harps and you cross them like this. I don't know how. It was magic, literal magic. And it obviously did not last long because it was insane to move and to play. Mm-hmm. And I literally cannot fathom how anyone tried to, like, were you like in the middle of the columns? I just don't know. So
they stick you inside.
They put you inside the harp.
Like jail.
You're in a harp jail.
And you're not allowed to come out until you've written a piece. Debussy's inside. He's like, I just watched 2 minutes until I finished these poems.
I was wondering if we were going to cry laugh at some point during this game.
I was so excited. Okay, so they put Debussy in jail in his chromatic harp.
In his chromatic harp jail. And then Erard was like, all right, that thing looks ridiculous. Try this thing out. So the harp that we were working with before the double action harp, which is the harp that we play now, the one that Ravel wrote the introduction Allegro for, it was the single action harp. So when you look at the back of a harp, you look at the pedals, there are 3 notches for each pedal. There's 1 pedal for each note group, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Each note group has a pedal. When the pedal is all the way up, the string is in flat. When you press the pedal down, a notch turns at where the string is, and it tightens the string and it goes to natural, and then again down to sharp. So if you have C flat, you have C flat on every string. If you have C natural, you have C natural on every string. The single action harp did not have access to flat, natural, and sharp. It was just natural and sharp. So you couldn't access the entire range, the chromatic range.
Mm-hmm.
So Erard came up, yeah.
So is this kind of like how a Bach's well-tempered clavier was actually written for an instrument that had different pitches for like C sharp versus D flat? Is that kind of the same neck of the woods?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the single action harp,
yeah.
And it was fairly useless. So continue.
It was fairly useless. So useless that the Mozart was written on it. So the Mozart was, no, I can't go into that because that's a side story of like tension in the strings and things. So the
I won't go there
like this. Stay focused.
No, this is what it's for.
Not very well. So this double action instrument was created by Erard and his company, and Ravel was commissioned to compose a piece for that to highlight this double action harp versus Debussy and the crazy cross-strung harp. And I think he wrote it in like 7 or 8 days or something like that. And he was on a cruise. He was like, man, I gotta write this piece because I gotta go on this boat with my friends. And so he like writes it down real quick and then is like, okay, I'll do the finishing touches on the boat. And then I think they're on the boat. He stops to go to a clothing store, leaves the manuscript in his jacket, gets to the boat and is like, oh God. And then somehow, oh God, what have I done? I need to honor my commitment. So he like goes back to the store or something, but the guy comes and like brings him the manuscript and then he had it, but he almost lost it. And
well, didn't the guy, it's like, but you're Ravel. And he's like, I absolutely am. Please give me back my music. And he's like, but if I don't, then I have an original piece written by Ravel. He's like, or you're kidnapping my piece.
Give me my piece.
Can you imagine like the struggle? They almost rip it.
Yeah.
They almost rip it in half.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
So Ravel almost lost his manuscript to a Chemisier fanboy.
Yes.
While on vacation.
Yes. It's one of the greatest pieces written for the harp repertoire. It's completely frantic. It's perfect. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so what makes it perfect? Sincerely, what makes it perfect is like the first piece to you that allowed you to understand harp.
I think it was something about the colors of the piece. It really, you have access to the entire range of the harp, and the colors that come out in this piece. I mean, really, that's it for me. It's just like, it's the options are limitless. And I think, oh gosh, the thing that makes it perfect is that it highlights the instrument. It's easy to play on the instrument. Once your technique is in good shape, I think that it's pretty easy to play on the instrument. And it's in flats for the most part, so it's really just resonant. And I don't know, I think the thing that made me really fall in love with it was that it was the first piece that I really worked on with like an ensemble, like a larger ensemble, and not just a chamber piece with flute, or being an orchestra and being in a huge ensemble and being scared. It was maybe one of the first experiences I had playing with other instruments and being in the sound and feeling comfortable and being able to play off of other musicians. But it's sweet, and the cadenza, just the themes, everything about it is just, I don't know. I don't even know how to put into words why I love it so much.
Just A+
all over. Yeah.
I wonder how much Ravel, obviously he was not stuck in harp jail like Debussy was, but like how much technique you have to have, because we have all these composers who were violinists or pianists, or they at least had a background in something. And harp is, to me, that would be a very foreign instrument.
Yeah.
Like, okay, good luck, Godspeed. Because even if you play piano, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He consulted a harpist. He worked with a harpist. I believe that he consulted a harpist with the composition. And I don't know really how that works. Honestly, I'm a bad harpist because I need to know more about this. But I'm like, how did he write it so quickly and still find a way to make it playable on the instrument.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a brand new invention, and he was able to just
do it. There are a couple of spots that are like, maybe this could have been written better. There are a couple of there's this one arpeggiated section where everybody does an edit and takes out notes because it's literally impossible. But in terms of harp repertoire, having one section that's difficult and maybe impossible to play is really not that bad, because usually you get half the piece needs to be rewritten and is, physically impossible to play. So he did a really good job. Good job, Ravel. He did it.
How do you, so Henry, how do you balance your workload then from piece to piece? Do you feel like you are, because is it not, English. The backs we were talking about, yes, that's different. That'll be different for all of you. But do you feel like the writing in the Saint-Saëns and the Massenet and the Ravel is more on lines of what you usually do day to day for work? Or have you found that you've had to stretch in certain ways for this role?
I think luckily a lot of this writing is very idiomatic for violin, especially the fantasy, surprisingly. Because it fills so much of the color palette, because it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
And I'm having to play all these notes to fill in all of the notes that you're constantly playing, just to try to keep up, honestly. But it's a lot of scales and arpeggios, and it's actually pretty easy. But I know what you're asking. I think just keeping track of all the flats and stuff, that's going to be the hardest part for me. But once I learn the tunes, it's fine.
Nice. What about the rest of the ensemble? Are you two kind of running herd for this program, where you'll be the leadership voices in the room, or are you going to let it just be a party once you start rehearsing?
Oh, I think start with a party, see how it goes, and then if we've got a,
you got a rogue person, you put them in harp jail?
Yeah, put them in harp jail. I will put them right in harp jail. Just kidding. I think it'll be, I don't know. I think it'll be really easy for someone to take. I think if someone knows what they're doing in the moment, they'll speak up and we'll work it out together. But I think for the Ravel, I'll probably be running the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most harp concerto-y part of this.
Yeah.
So that's definitely. And like you said about how the flats make your instrument resonant, it dampens all the parts, actually. Mm-hmm. So it brings you out even more.
I didn't know that.
Right. I mean, we won't have any sympathetic strings ringing at all.
Perfect.
So, perfect.
I can play real quiet.
Yeah. And we can't forget our friends flute and clarinet.
Yes.
Either. That's a very interesting addition.
Yes. And fun.
Yeah.
And difficult for them, I think, these pieces are.
How so? Just the part writing itself, or the balance?
The
when
balance.
They're by themselves, or
balance is hard. Ensemble, just putting it together. Some of the rhythmic complexities are challenging. Like smaller subdivisions, I think will be a little bit. Usually, when I play it, there are some spots that are a little bit difficult to put together, but not so difficult that it can't be played because everybody plays it all the time. So
there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. How do you? Harp can be quite loud.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that.
It can. I try to play loud.
It has the capacity for a huge amount of sound output. So how do you balance when you are with a smaller ensemble? How do you listen? Do you have to get outside perspective, or is it pretty easy to hear where you are in the context of the people around you?
I think I can tell. It's nice to always have someone out there for balance. And I think in general, the issue is not being loud enough, especially with the larger ensemble stuff. But I don't see that being a problem. But I don't know. I think generally I can tell if it's too much. But yeah, definitely always good. My friend Mary is here this week. So I might have her come and listen and just like check balance and make sure I'm not like the bass of my harp is not like blasting away and just like covering everything else.
It was a surprise the first time I had sat next to a harp and heard them go to town. She's like, this is the most heavenly of all instruments. It's depicted as like lovely and it's demure, very demure, very mindful,
angelic,
and very angelic.
Yes.
And then it's like, and then I just started blasting.
Yeah.
That's like my life motto.
My favorite is the sounds of the pedals going like
at the end of the Ravel. I mean, of the Sasson.
Yeah.
There's like this this passage where it's just like a little violin thing, and then a gliss, and then violin, and then another gliss, but like 7 pedal changes in between. And I remember like learning it. I was like a freshman or sophomore or something. I was like, oh my God, so many pedals. And just like walking down. It was so obnoxious. At the person that I played with, my friend Nick, we decided to like spoof my teacher. And we came into one of the coachings and he had learned the pedals on the left side of the harp and I was doing the pedals on the right. And she came and she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's too many pedals. I've got someone here. Like, why not ask for a little help? We didn't do it for the concert, but it was just very silly. His pedaling was not very good.
Someone here.
Yeah.
They're not busy.
They're not busy.
No.
Just like, da-da-da-da. You're just holding it out. Just step over there. Give me a little assistance.
No, we could do that.
We should.
I'm gonna need to know if there's a PDQ Bach piece. There must be a PDQ Bach piece somewhere where he did that. There must be.
God.
Because if there isn't, we have to do
We have to do
a harp spoof night where it's just so it's not even like you don't even walk over. You just like reach.
Yeah, totally. Like,
very, very dramatic. That'd be really fun. I feel like that should be the next recital. The next recital should just be all parodies of traditional rep with stupid pedals.
that would be great. Actually,
Really
yeah.
I'm amazed though that it's the same thing with timpani tuning changes that you often do not hear those changes. So how do you make those? Is it just time and experience that lets you do it more quietly and more cautiously, or are there just moments where you just have to do it? And I'm sorry that it's loud.
Yeah, we try to keep pedals quiet as much as possible, and a lot of it is like it's practice. I mean, I practice my feet alone, and I think a lot about my body structure and what muscles I'm accessing. If I'm having a really difficult time with pedals, or just like physically getting from the bottom of the harp to the top of the harp. So pedals are challenging. We try very hard to make them quiet. I'm not the quietest pedaler in the world. I think because I'm an orchestral harpist more than anything else. When you're in orchestra, no one cares. And no one can hear your pedals. So it doesn't matter as much. But then getting into this like chamber stuff and almost like concerto kind of stuff, I have to really make sure I've got the right shoes on and my bench is at the right height. And
I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Like if you can hear all the machinery going while you're doing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's how the instrument works. Just let me go. Yeah.
Okay. So there are definitely shoes that are better for this than others.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your go-to pair of shoes?
Oh man, last year when I was here, I remember like trying to find shoes. I've been trying to find the perfect harp shoe for like my entire life, and I think for stuff that is more pedal heavy, I like a heel. I will probably wear a heel for the concert, which I hate doing because I can't walk in them. It's like terrifying. It's like horrifying.
Well, just have shoes that you walk across stage in, and then have the heels waiting nearby, and then
or just like wheel me on the dolly.
with the same crane the harp drill will be used.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so we're going to wheel you out.
You're going to wheel me out. I'll have my shoes on that I can't fall in. But yeah, so I think for me, when I'm in orchestra, generally, I'll wear a sneaker or something comfortable. But if I've got something that's really pedal heavy and I need to be getting around, I like to have a heel on so I can kind of like slide from one place to another. I know some harpists only practice in heels. Some only wear flats. Some hate wearing shoes at all. It's like very personalized kind of thing. And I think it's dependent on the structure of your body.
Okay.
For sure.
Henry, what's your go-to shoe?
Yeah.
So one of my industry tricks is that I go to thrift stores and find whatever black dress shoes I can find and buy them cheap. So I have like 6 pairs currently because you just burn through them so quickly as a classical musician. They're not made to wear every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they kind of like fall apart.
Yes. So you have 6 different styles of black performance shoes that you've accumulated so far.
Yes, and I try to rotate them depending on how beaten up they are. You know, I might wear them to the zoo, for example. I'd say my very nice ones for the chamber concerts because I'm on full display there and I want to look presentable.
No, actually, so this is actually, are you going to be sitting or standing?
That's a good question.
Because that also might affect the shoe.
Yeah, that's true. I think for the fantasy, I would love to be standing.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Although there's the argument that that's like, if you're going to be sitting, I feel awkward like being over here.
I like that though, because then I can see you and you can move. And I feel like that piece in particular is so conversational. Yeah, it's the schmaltz. You got to be able to.
But for the other pieces, since there's a cello sitting, I assume we'll all be sitting for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And then for the Thais, you'll be standing, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So you could have a pair of shoes for schmaltzing.
I think
and
so.
A pair of shoes for sitting.
Schmaltz.
Schmaltz it
up. That's right.
Oh, tremendous. Okay, so last question.
Yeah.
What's the piece you're most excited to play?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the piece you're most excited for the audience to hear?
Okay. What do you think?
I think that people are going to love the Ravel. I think that's the last thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's got the most people playing. It's got a flashy ending. People are going to love it, you know? And it's like such a showcase for you. It's like your last like little twirl before we all take a bow and get up. Yeah, exactly.
Except
it's very flourishing.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll say that.
She somersaults out of Harp prison to the audience.
Yes, exactly. Like Lindsay Sterling style. I can do that. There's another crane for me. It's like
I'll talk to Jay. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
We'll fly you in through. We're gonna build a rig.
Yeah, a rig with like a harness on me. For the full concert, I just have this harness and refuse to allow it.
Harness and really nice shoes.
But as you descend, people are like, "Oh man, the shoes are like
shoes are fire."
Wow.
Okay, so the audience is gonna love the Ravel.
Yeah.
But what piece are you most excited to perform then? Is it also the Ravel, or is it?
It's so hard. I feel like the backs. I'm excited to just finally play with somebody that's not a recording, and especially with Henry, which is also why the fantasy is just like, I'm so excited about that. I feel so comfortable with Henry. It's like, it's so scary in these situations to be, at least for me personally, I deal with performance anxiety. So to be, naked away from an ensemble is so scary, but like not with my buddy here. So I'm very excited to have that experience with Henry.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise. I think all of it's going to be great because we're going to be able to relax in that way.
Yeah.
Just think about the music.
Yeah. Out of our heads, into our ears. And
that being said, I think the backs is what I'm looking forward to most.
It's going to, okay, good. Yeah.
The fantasy is going to be work. That's like the one that's like, that's like the big one that we're going to be working on.
I forget how hard it is sometimes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good distinction to make. Like there are pieces that are hard and then there are pieces that are work, and they are both often worth the execution, but they feel very different.
It is a different thing. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. The backs will be more, I don't think it's going to play itself. You know what I mean? We're going to have to do a lot of stylistic pencil markings in there.
Yeah.
The fantasy does play itself, but it's harder technically.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to it. Thank you guys both so much. This was awesome. Looking forward to springing you from Harp jail. This is June 15th, right? At 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bring your friends.
Bring your friends.
And try to fill the house. Like people standing in the hall.
Bring your schmaltzy shoes.
Bring your schmaltzy shoes.
Yes.
Schmaltzy shoes only.
Dressing schmaltzy is very encouraged.
Yeah.
Schmaltzily.
Schmaltz it up. Oh, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.